At 59, Viktor is not much different from other men in his Siberian village. Hard labor and alcohol have worn him out, leaving little to look forward to. But there's one thing that gives him a sense of purpose. When he puts on his cotton shirt, he becomes Grigory Rasputin.
He was a good man. He helped the poor and never asked for anything in return. But in our country, prophets are not loved, not valued, and not respected.
Viktor is not just any Rasputin look-alike, he's his countryman. Both were born in the village of Pokrovska in southern Siberia, albeit more than 80 years apart. And like Rasputin, Viktor struggles to balance his life between good and bad, between virtue and sin. One British historian said that all the problems of the Russian Empire originated in the nursery, that Russia may still have been a monarchy if an incurable boy hadn't been born in 1904, if he hadn't been the heir to the throne, and if his mother hadn't placed unquestionable trust in a man who knew how to ease the boy's pain. Like the heir to the Russian throne, Stas is also a hemophilic. A deficient chromosome doesn't let his blood clot properly, meaning that without intervention, any minor injury could be fatal. For his mother, Yelena, hemophilia came as a shock. Over the years, she says the disease has taken over her psyche, turning this once carefree woman into an obsessed caretaker.
When your child is suffering, you're ready to give up everything to help him. Absolutely everything.
With her son having one of the most difficult forms of hemophilia, Yelena has tried all the means of curing him. Unlike the Tsarina a century ago, Yelena also looked beyond traditional medicine.
A few years ago, I was introduced to a healer who promised to cure my son. He was reading some prayers, and that helped stop my son's bleeding. I don't know how to explain that, but it really worked.
For the Tsarina, Rasputin was her last hope, the only person who could keep her only son from dying. But over the years, she grew to see in Rasputin not only a healer, but also a friend, one of the very few this German-born woman really had.
The Tsarina really wanted to understand the so-called Russian soul, and she saw Rasputin as its personification. A simple, debaucherous man who nevertheless was reaching out to God.
Nostalgia, loneliness, isolation. These feelings that haunted the German princess at the Russian court are not foreign to Roman. In the early 1990s, he was among thousands of Russians who moved to Germany in search of better life. He's still not sure if he's found it.
Look at this oak tree. It's big and mighty, like Russia.
Roman belongs to one of the small Orthodox churches for whom Rasputin is not just a historic figure. He's a prophet worthy of the highest comparisons.
Through great suffering and through many torments, from his own life and his own personal experience, Grigory Rasputin attained a high level of spirituality. Like Jesus Christ, who suffered and was reborn, so will all of us be resurrected.
During his lifetime, Rasputin had many followers who revered him as a man of God. But there were many others who saw him in a completely different light. More than 90 years after Rasputin's death, Russia's crazy love machine is still at work. In a country where Viagra has made it to the top 5 best-selling drugs, The myth of Rasputin's miraculous potency is not just popular, it's profitable. From vodka to condoms to strip bars like this one, Rasputin's name has become a synonym for uninhibited lifestyles and debauchery, and while some historians say his sexual adventures were highly exaggerated and at times even made up, historic accuracy is not always good for business. Making money from sin is far easier than preaching moderation. Almost every Russian city now has a strip club named Rasputin, but here in the Siberian town of Tobolsk, businessmen went a step further, borrowing not only a name, but also an artifact.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a truly miraculous chair. It used to belong to Grigory Rasputin. Sitting on it may enhance your masculine powers.
The legend of Rasputin's chair is relatively new, but there are already plenty of volunteers to test it. A few minutes later, the chair is no longer needed. The public is roaring, with one guest bearing a familiar gaze. In the early 20th century, stories of Rasputin's drunken bouts often made it to the gossip columns. But just how many of them were true is still being debated. In a way, Rasputin was Russia's first celebrity, an illiterate man who made friends with the czars, so any mention of his name was sure to sell newspapers. Back in Rasputin's home village, his lookalike Victor is also a local luminary. Like his famous countryman, Victor discovered he has healing powers.
Please help me. I have a headache. For God's sake.
Did you work on the field?
Too much, I think.
Don't close your eyes. You may fall asleep. You should tickle a bit. You feel it?
Yes, I do.
Victor claims he can heal not only headaches and bruises, but also arthritis. Unfortunately, his own liver, strained by years of heavy drinking, gets no benefit.
I cannot help myself, but I can cure other people. Free of charge, of course.
While many sides of Rasputin's personality are highly debated, his healing talent was admitted by even his harshest critics. His ability to stop bleeding helped him gain enormous influence with the czars, but his promise to cure the air of hemophilia remains unattainable to this day. A century ago, Stas wouldn't have been expected to last till his 30th birthday, but today he has all the chances to outlive his healthier peers. Hemophilia is still incurable, but with the emergence of new drugs, patients can hope to lead a fairly normal life.
The state of your joints is fairly good. The movements are uninhibited. Though some signs of deformity are visible. Don't forget you need blood transfusions 3 times a week to prevent further deterioration in your joints.
Oh God, when will our medicine invent something less painful, like a nose spray or pills?
Don't expect that anytime soon.
Unlike hemophilia, which is transmitted from mothers to sons, Rasputin's healing talent wasn't passed on to his descendants. His great-granddaughter doesn't even carry his last name. Laurence Huot Solovyov lives in Paris. A secretary before retirement, she's fluent in English but not Russian. Her parents made an effort not to foster her heritage.
My father forbade us to even mention Rasputin's name. In 1939, when he and my mother got married, Russia and Germany signed a pact, so he tried not to attract attention to his Russian wife.
Laurence is pleased to hear that her deep-seated blue eyes remind those of Rasputin, but for the most part of her life she kept her ancestry secret. Now in her 70s, she's on a mission to clear Rasputin's name.
I firmly believe that if relatives won't take stand in his defense, nobody would. So much negative has been said about him, so many sins have been ascribed to him. This man was made a scapegoat.
Like a century ago, the meaning of Rasputin's last name is still causing a controversy. Some believe it comes from the word Rasputa, or debauchery, while others insist it stems from Rasputia, or the crossroads. This etymological riddle is of no concern for Pyotr Sheremetyev. A great-nephew of one of Rasputin's killers, he is sure Rasputin was Russia's curse. His ancestor, Duke Felix Yusupov, held a similar view. In December of 1916, he invited Rasputin to his palace with one single goal: to kill him. More than 90 years on, his descendant regrets not the actual murder, but the manner in which it was carried out.
The Duke shouldn't have lured him into his own palace. If he wanted to get rid of Rasputin, I would say he shouldn't have organized it in such a way so that he and other aristocrats couldn't have been implicated in it.
Meanwhile, in Pokrovskoye, there are no hard feelings towards Rasputin. Quite the contrary. The village is the only settlement around here with a concrete road, running water, and a steady income from tourists. All thanks to its famous son.
Let me welcome you to the hometown of the most famous Russian. It's not Vladimir Lenin with all his political schemes. It's not Yuri Gagarin with his charming smile. It's a man from this god-forsaken village, Grigory Rasputin.
Given Rasputin's popularity, it's not surprising that he became the subject for the first private museum in Russia. The exhibition features a few items that reputedly belong to Rasputin's family. The centerpiece of the collection looks remarkably familiar.
Rasputin presented this chair as a wedding gift to one of his neighbors. He told him the following: "You're young and strong at the moment, so my chair will serve you just as a seat. But in a few years, your masculine powers will fail you, and that's when you'll need this chair. Have a seat and think of me, and your power will return."
The museum tour ends with an offer to try the chair in action, which once again finds no shortage of volunteers.